Listen, we have no shortage of amazing guests on this show, and today is no exception. After 20 years in leadership, Mike realized most conflict isn't actually about communication. But today, he helps leaders and teams communicate better and work through tension in a healthier way. Let me ask you this to start. What first made you realize that communication wasn't actually the real problem? Because that's interesting, because a lot of times we talk about it's communication. We got to communicate. And there's probably no shortage of that. Yes, we do. But you found another layer to it.
Yeah. Well, it was a friend of mine who asked if I had ever heard of this tool. And it's kind of a nerdy sounding thing. Who cares about the Enneagram? But because it's all about relationships, when I learned that it's about helping all of us understand our patterns, how we walk into a room. Like most of us don't realize that the fight or the conflict or the tension that we have with a boss or a spouse or a parent or a kid, the fight is rarely about the fight. It's stuff that you brought into that moment that was already kind of simmering, and because we're not aware of it, it changes things in really unfortunate ways sometimes. Yeah.
It's so funny because, you know, I'll give full credit to my mom on this one. She told me one time, she said, it's better to be fascinated with people than frustrated with people. And it's the background behind that is something along the lines of like, you know, if someone honks at you in the road and they're pissed off at you for doing something and you don't know why, and you're like, what did I do? You don't know what baggage they're carrying in that moment to have created that. You don't know if they just broke up with their spouse or someone passed away or, you know, who knows, something bad. And they're taking out that frustration on you. That's their version of communicating in that way with you. And I feel like that's exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah, it's similar. Like that there is a good example of how a moment in that driver's day could have influenced that moment. But what the Enneagram does, it shows what our patterns are, because all of us kind of have an autopilot that we are running on, that we don't even know what the settings are set to. The people around us who see us under stress, they could say, oh my gosh, yeah, Justin, love him. He's so gifted at this and this, but when he's backed into a corner, this is how he is predictably almost every time. All of us have that, all of us.
Right.
So when you start understanding what is driving that, it gives you freedom to then recognize it. And I ask myself all the time, I'm like, Mike, is this the best way for you to show up right now on your normal autopilot? And I go, no, that usually doesn't work out the way I want. So now I have some options I can think and,
so this is a combination of accepting and understanding other people, as well as being able to show up for yourself in your own way a little bit better to the world.
Absolutely. In my experience, starting with myself, and that's what the Enneagram is meant to do. It's meant to be a mirror for you to start with. Most personality typing systems describe you, and you read it and you're like, yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, I'm strong at that. Oh, I'm horrible at that. Okay, great. But the Enneagram says, why do you show up in that weak way? Like, why do some people just like a bull in a china shop just punch through when the moment doesn't require a fight right now, but they're bringing fighting energy to that? Why does that happen? Why do some people, instead of holding people accountable, they're just always acquiescing and always saying yes and going with the flow and avoiding conflict, failing to recognize that you're just creating a much bigger conflict later by avoiding it all the time? Why do some of us over-explain ourselves and talk too much? These are just some examples of how the Enneagram shows that under stress, this is how you're showing up. So when I learned about mine, all of a sudden, especially with my wife, Justin, I married my best friend, Tanya. When we learned about each other's types, it was so much easier once knowing our type to go, oh my gosh, like I have compassion now. I used to be so mad at you for consistently doing that thing that drives me crazy. But now that I understand how I I inadvertently am driving you nuts in ways I don't even mean to. Now I'm like, well, how can I hold you to a higher standard? You're just like me. So it gives you like you said, instead of frustration, what was the term you used?
Be fascinated instead of frustrated. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So it gives you that curiosity and compassion. And people that used to drive me nuts, now that I have this as an understanding, as a tool, I'm like, okay, I think I know where they're coming from here. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about, let's stick with the husband and wife relationship, because I know it intimately, because I've been married for almost 20 years now. So
awesome. Congrats.
The thing is that, we've all had arguments with our spouse. And I think the hardest part to overcome is that we both think we're right in the moment.
Absolutely.
Right. And there's a reason why, because in our logical brain, in our own brain, we have that, oh, well, this is what's happening on my side of things. I'm right.
Yep.
Now, I've come to understand that being right is far less important than being happy.
Yeah, that's right. You have a choice.
Right.
Yeah.
But that being said, but I'm not saying I acquiesce to every situation. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be that person that backs off. It's like, okay, honey, whatever, fine. But at the same time, I think what you're saying to me here is that the understanding of the other party's position and where you're coming from at the same time, if we can both understand each other that way, that with that kind of depth, our lives will be that much better.
Absolutely.
If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I didn't plan on looking for the thing I was just looking for, but it's a helpful illustration. I found some nerdy guy, a mathematician, and I say that in a loving way because I consider myself a nerd. He created this geometric shape that when you look at it like this, it's a circle. When you look at it like this, it's a triangle.
Right.
And then when you look at it head on like that, it's a square. And so oftentimes what we're bickering and arguing about what the shape of this is, failing to understand that, oh, you're looking at, oh my gosh, when I look at it from the way you're talking about, oh my gosh, I can totally see that. I was looking at it like this going, are you nuts? This isn't a square. What's wrong with you? And so the Enneagram is a way to understand what's driving people. And I'm a man of many analogies, Justin, but
I love them too. I'm all for it.
A lot of us have seen like those, motivational posters. I think that's where I first saw this, an iceberg, and there's only like 10% of the iceberg is visible above the water. 90% of it is underwater. And it looks, blows your mind when you see the profile of it. But personality and behavior, those are the things that we can see with our boss, our direct reports, our coworkers, board members, family members, spouse. We just see personality and behavior. But what's driving their personality and behavior is all beneath the surface that you don't see. It would be their core fear, their core motivation, their triggers, their distorted principles about how the world should be and how they should be, what their idealized image is. And all of these things shape our identity. So, and most of the time, I think we see the better side of people, right? People keep their inner monologue inside, right? Like they can be nice in public and stuff. It's when you're forced to live with someone or work with someone, that's when all of that stuff, you can't hide that anymore. And it is showing up. And if you don't understand this here, unfortunately, and my wife and I, although we've been best friends since 1993 when we first met, we've been married 27 years, and there's been 3 or 4 dark nights of the soul where I was like, I think this is what people who are thinking about divorce feel like. Like this is really, it stopped being fun, and every marriage goes through that, and I'm so grateful that Tanya and I, there's a number of things that really bind us together, but understanding each other's wiring since 2018 when we first learned about this, it has been a game changer. She can call me out now and she'll say, Mike, you are emotionally spiraling. All they said was this, and you're adding a whole story to it that you don't even know, and now you're like feeling like the sky is falling. Mike, you're spiraling. So now when I say, oh, honey, you're helping, she'll be like, okay, all right. Like there's she's not upset. When she says, Mike, you're emotionally spiraling, I don't have to defend and go, I'm spiraling because, right? So now
remind me what your title was. What was your
the intense creative.
Intense creative. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me what surprised you most when you first learned about that, about yourself.
It's mainly the gap between how I think I'm showing up and how I'm actually showing up. And I was looking at the positive intent, failing to recognize, oh, but Mike, your intentions have nothing to do with your impact. Those are two very different things. And so the Enneagram, similarly, when I learned about, so one of my gifts, Justin, I'm a very creative person who can, like, between jokes and the fun I have and the ideas I come up with, I'm a very fun, creative person. When I speak, I can inspire people and have people come up to me after I've given a talk and go like, dude, did someone just tell you my whole life? Like, I felt like you're speaking just to me, and that was so good. But, those are the pros. But the cons are, I sometimes will use that emotional connection tool in environments that it's not appropriate for the emotional connection. We got a job to do. This isn't about, like if I was an airline pilot, not a good time to be creative, Mike. Follow the checklist. Put on the straitjacket and do it the way I tell you to. Don't be creative here, right? So all nine types.
So that leads to my next question, which some of the blind spots that leaders tend to have. So like you must have, in going about your daily life prior to this, you just went along in life thinking, I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Well, right? Like everyone loves me. That kind of thing is what I'm sort of feeling from what you're saying, but not understanding that there was behind the scenes, the blind spot could have been your team, for example, wasn't as effective as they could have been.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because they were believing this sort of, it's almost like a boy who cries wolf scenario where it's like you kept coming up with stuff and getting excited and they're like, oh, we got to move from there to there, there to there. Oh, let's just, so it actually creates a blind spot for you because you don't realize that's happening.
Absolutely. And here's the truth. Every leader and in every relationship, you've got that dynamic where you think you're showing up one way, and what you don't see is the eye rolls that people, maybe they hide it on their face, but when you leave the room, they're like, will he ever, does he have a clue? Does she even know? Right? Like, and it's kind of nice to know. Because airline pilots, back to that analogy, they set that autopilot, they monitor it, and they only use it in the appropriate settings, and they turn it off as soon as it's time to land the plane or maneuver around, unpredictable things. But you and I, sadly, because we know what we're really good at, for me, since I was a kid, I can smooth talk my way into places that I have no business getting into. And I'll come home and tell my wife, and she's like, why do they say yes to you? Like, that's crazy. NFL locker rooms, flight simulators at airlines, like, door-to-door surveys where most people would have their door slam in their face. I can pull that off. But when I show up going, oh, I know how to handle this, and I use that smooth talking skill that is so great in certain contexts. When I use it in the wrong context, it does not go well. And afterwards, I'm like, what's wrong with me? But this applies to every listener watching this. I don't know if you want me to give a quick synopsis of the 9 types, but
go for it. Let's hear it. That'd be great.
So, generally speaking, we all have traits of the following 9. It's not like we'll relate to all of them, but there's one that is that iceberg that you're like, oh, if I'm honest, I think that's the one. And so we've got, and there's different terms, the organization I'm certified with uses the following terms. Type 1, they're known as the strict perfectionist. They think that their desire, and they make the world a better place by far. Let me start with the positives. They improve society. They improve families and communities. They can see mistakes and problems that are like, you know what? If we just tweak that, that's going to be better. But the blind spot for a 1 is that sometimes they think that because their inner critic helps them to improve, that sometimes they're going to accidentally come across like a critic to others. And people are going to say, we got 98% on the score, Enneagram 1, strict perfectionist. We got a 98, and all you can do is talk about the 2%. that didn't land. Like that,
Yes.
that gets annoying, right? So 2 is the considerate helper. They think that they're helping, and they're very compassionate and warm. They're the most kind and big-hearted people, but often they can accidentally come across a little more self-important in terms of like, oh, you think we need you? Like, we need you in the sense that we like you and you're great, but we don't always need your help on everything. 3s are the competitive achievers. Their identity is often married to success and winning. And so, and they have the ability to walk into a room and within seconds, they know who they need to be and how they need to talk to look successful and like they fit into that group. Even if they have nothing to do with that profession, they could be a lawyer. If they're a 3, they could walk into a room with counselors and psychologists and just effortlessly, they know how to fit in with that crowd. 4s, they are the intense creative, lots of musicians, artists, bring a lot of meaning to the world, but they talk too much. They long to be understood. So they over-explain and over-communicate, and they can be moody and emotional. Type 5s, they're known as the quiet specialists. Their greatest fear is not knowing the answer to something. And so a 5, they could just go out and buy a new printer if they needed it. But the printer they have, they might spend 9 hours taking it apart, learning everything about it, reading all the manuals, understanding it. They just love going deep into things, and they always come prepared to a meeting. They've got like all the research. 6s, they're known as the loyal skeptic. They're the ones at a board meeting that are going to ask 100 questions, and it feels like they're stuck in the mud and they don't want to come along, but they can see dangers that we don't. And they keep boards and organizations legal, and they keep them from driving over a cliff. 7s are the enthusiastic visionaries. They have great enthusiasm and vision. They're entrepreneurs, but they often reframe negatives and painful moments. And so that can be frustrating for people who are like, hold on a second, you're making it sound like this was a good thing, but this is actually a bad. We'd have to face the pain of this. We can't just brush over it. But 7's the one to avoid pain. 8s are the active controllers. They are the best leaders in crisis when they're healthy. They can say, Justin, grab the fire hose. You go do that. You call 911. I need you to go do this. They're take charge. They're excellent leaders. But their blind spot is sometimes they don't see how intense that they're coming across. They bring fighting energy to situations that might not require a fight. And then 9s, they're the adaptive peacemakers. They fear conflict. And so they're often the most agreeable, lovely people to hang around with, but oftentimes they're acquiescing to everyone else, and their frustration grows and grows and grows. And then sometimes out of the blue, the most charming, sweet person you've ever seen, bam, goes off like a volcano. And you're like, I literally have asked you 3 times today if you're okay with the plan, and you said yes. And now, boom, like they're going off. It's because they didn't want to seem contrary. So they deny what they really want, and then they get angry, and it kind of goes off.
So I'll reach out to the audience that's listening or that is watching this right now and sort of say internally as you listen to this, and if you have to go back and listen to it again, which one are you? I would challenge you to put down in the comments like, hey, I'm a number what? I was resonating with 4 for a minute there. What was 4 again?
4 is the intense creative. So they're very, very good with, they have the full palette of emotions. There's nobody better if you've just gotten fired or had a loss in your life. A 4 can come alongside and just be with you. They're not going to try to fix you. They're not going to try. They're comfortable with the pain, but they find meaning in the pain. And they can often put words to feelings that everyone's felt before. And this is something I've had people come up to me after and be like, Mike, I have felt that my whole life and I didn't know how to say it, but you just put your finger on exactly what it is. Yeah.
I was resonating with 4 until you said, what was 7? I can't remember. What
7, the enthusiastic visionary. Yeah.
Yeah. Then that kind of hit me a little bit. And I was like, there's something there too. I imagine that as much as your sort of your leader, like your main one is whatever, there's probably secondary influences as you go, right?
Absolutely. And by the way, you had mentioned like some people might be wondering what they are. I put together this a free PDF on my website called Why Your Relationships Keep Going Sideways and What to Do About It. Cool. It kind of gives people just a starter kit to kind of identify where they might be at. There's no one type that makes a better leader.
No, right.
The best leader has self-awareness to go, do I really want to be stuck in my 4 box? That's something I have to wrestle through. Like, Mike, does my work have to be perfect and as great as it is in my vivid imagination? Does my work actually have to be that good before I click submit? Or can I recognize that is way too slow? And what I need to do is I need to put on my Enneagram 8 or Enneagram 3, knowing what those traits are. And just, if it's 70% good, it's better to knock out 100 things today at 70% than to do one thing at 99%.
And if I've learned anything about these types of things, none of it is, oh, you're that.
No, it better not be like that.
It's about embracing your superpower.
Absolutely.
That's what I've learned from these things.
Self-awareness is key. And you've probably heard, Justin, for years, the saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Companies, that's why they hire Enneagram coaches to walk their team through it, because they understand there's not a talent problem on our team. It's not a lack of skill. We have the highest qualified people with the best degrees around on our team, and we're talking past each other every meeting. And then you see that guy say, oh, I'm leaving after 5 years for a better opportunity. And you're sitting there going, I've seen you and him fight every meeting we've had, and you're both at your wit's end. And I'm thinking, did you really leave because of a better opportunity? Or you just couldn't cope with like the misunderstandings anymore? So that's where but
therein lies the opportunity, is to have freedom from that situation. Right. Absolutely. So that's where as if you can open your mind to that, right? You got to think bigger in this scenario, right? It feels like that person is looking at it just emotionally going, that's a better opportunity for me. But the opportunity is to get away from the shit that they're going through over here.
Exactly.
The daily grind for them, because they don't want to feel that way every day.
Yep,
right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So
and back to you, I think I took the Colby years ago. It's excellent. I've used DISC and Myers-Briggs. All of these are very useful and helpful.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be put in a box. I say this with love to anyone who says I don't want to be put in a box. You're already in a box. You just don't know it. And once you can see the pattern of how you're showing up under stress, why your spouse or your dad or your mom or your kids or your coworkers, why you keep reacting the way that you do, once you can see what's driving that and see the box, then you can get back into the prefrontal cortex of your brain instead of your amygdala, which is like fight, or freeze. Now you can get up here and go, okay, is it like, let's say I'm an 8, do I really need to raise my tone and be protective, like you're a bully and I got to put you in? Is that really what this moment calls for? And you might go, you know what? My brain's telling me this isn't that situation. So I'm going to adapt. I'll be more 2-ish and be the considerate helper. So it helps you climb out of the box. That's what I love so much about it.
It's self-awareness. And I just, like I said, or I think we talked about it earlier, like the idea of knowing that. I mean, why wouldn't you want to be the best version of yourself? Why wouldn't you want to show up for your teammates, for your employees, for your boss, for your wife and kids as the best version of yourself? Is kind of the way I've always looked at it. And it's not like it's super invasive. It's like, I'm sure you're probably doing an online thing and you're filling in questions and so on. And I feel like at the end of it, you have a little more knowledge. And then you get some advice from you as to how to maximize your output on that knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember, Justin, if you have kids.
I do. I got 3.
Okay, so we're in a similar boat. I have 4, and one of the things from the get-go, and don't get me wrong, my parents equipped me for incredible success. I love them so much, and they've made me who I am today. But every kid, I think, says, I'm not going to do that. Right? And you make that your life's mission as a parent. I'm not going to be that. And so I went ahead and did that, not recognizing that my 4 kids have different temperaments than me. So the things that I made meaning out of certain comments that, one of my parents made, and I put meaning around it, and it put a chip on my shoulder and wounded my soul. And all the while, like, it's not what they said, it's the meaning I put behind it. So the analogy, this is an analogy for the Enneagram. When I recognize that I'm treating others the way I want them to treat me, and what I don't realize is that is not helping someone if they've got different wiring. I'm not helping them.
I've heard something along those lines, and I want to share it, and I'm hoping it aligns with what you're saying.
Yeah.
The golden rule we all know, right? Treat others the way that you want to be treated, kind of thing. Then the elevation of that was something I was told years ago, the diamond rule, which kind of falls into place with what you're saying. Because to your point, I would love to be treated a certain way. When I go to a restaurant, my expectation of service is what it is. But your expectation of service might be different. Someone else's might be different. So the diamond rule is treat others the way they want to be treated.
That is so good. Yeah.
Right. And it was just another level of that. Right. And I love that because it's like, you might be talking at someone in a way that you think is fine for them because you don't mind it.
That's right. Yeah.
But they are sitting there going, what the F? Like,
F
off. Nobody
Absolutely.
speaks to me this way.
Yeah.
And maybe you're the leader of that team and they're your employee or whatever. And they're going home and bitching at their wife or husband going, my boss is an asshole and he's this and he's that and whatever.
Yeah.
And you don't even know it. And you think things are fine.
That's right. Yeah.
So being able to recognize these things is so important. And I'll leave you with one last thought, and maybe you can give me one last tip for people out there trying to get involved in this and figure this out. But, there's an episode, the very last episode of the show Shrinking. I don't know if you watched the show.
I love it. It's one of my favorite shows.
Favorite shows ever.
Yeah.
That and Ted Lasso that just blow me away.
Yeah,
with
me too.
Happy-go-lucky, good look. I love how every show ends on a good note and all that. The very last episode when the two characters with Harrison Ford and Jason Segel were standing in the restaurant, and he flew in to meet him.
That's right. Yeah.
He looks at him and he says, I'm covered in scars. Right. And Harrison Ford looks at him and said, well, that just means you have a life well lived. What kind of life would you have had without those scars? Right. So I think the problem is that some people sit here looking at us going, wow, they're so positive. They're so this. There's no way. There's not I'm too late for me. I don't need to. No. It's never too late to make a change and to do something different to better your life in one way or another, whether you're 75 years old or 15 years old, just getting into it, make a change, do something good and help yourself. And I feel like learning about this to really interact with the world around you in a different way is probably one of the most interesting things that I've seen in a long time.
You bet. I just watched Gran Torino for the first time just a couple weeks ago.
That's a cool one. Yeah.
And that's an example of a man in his, I'm thinking he's in his late 70s or in his 80s perhaps, who, he's got all kinds of baggage. It looks like it's too late for any hope for that guy to change. And it's such a redemption filled story of how you can live a life of amazing meaning where people will, we hate thinking about death in North America, right? But you and I are going to have a funeral one day. And the most beautiful stories to me, I love all stories, but when you see someone who's older, who's made some mistakes and they're out of touch with their kids and they want to pick up the phone, but they're terrified to do it because they think they're going to judge me. They're going to yell at me. It's the most beautiful thing when they get the courage to say, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to call. I can't change how they receive it. All I can do is my part and say, I screwed up and I love you and I want to be better. And we all need to embrace our identity. Here's my last thing is we are all beautiful people, beautiful. It doesn't matter what differences we have. You are beautiful. And we also have to embrace that we are broken. It doesn't mean we're worthless. It doesn't mean we're to be condemned or judged. It means welcome to the human race. We're beautiful and broken. And when you can move forward with a tool like this to say, you know what? I'm going to do some work on myself. I want to grow in my relationship with myself. Once we start doing that, it's crazy how our relationships start to bloom, and people are like, you know what? You're a lot of fun to hang out with now. You know, I used to think you were a real bloop, 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 and I love you now. Yeah. Doing self-work, it's a beautiful thing.
No, you just gave me goosebumps. And on that note, I think we should end. So we're coming up against it. We really appreciate your time today, Mike. You are amazing. We're going to put all your website and all your stuff down below, your contact details down below in the chat. And if anybody wants to get in touch and try this thing and better themselves and just take that step, Mike is here for you. So thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Justin.
Bye.